So today, my mandate is to talk about elbow arthroplasty in traumatology. It's not very common to use arthroplasty in traumatology, but then let me try to do what I can. So the ultimate aim in this whole situation is to get painless, stable range of motion of the elbow. And what is the functional range of the elbow? It's 100 degrees of flexion and extension from 30 to 130 degrees and pronation supination of 50 degrees each. So in the acute situation, the indication for elbow arthroplasty in trauma would be a type C2 and a type C3 according to the AO classification. It's as simple as that. But it's important to remember doing this in younger patients is not good, and the recommendation is that you use it in patients more than 65 years. It's always worthwhile to reconstruct it, and later if needed you can go back to replacement. So the other indications in trauma: post-traumatic arthritis, a non-reconstructible trauma, a post-traumatic stiffness, or an instability could also be an indication. So what are our options? The first options that we had was a constrained implant, which we don't use anymore. Hemi replacement is available, and somebody did mention surface replacement, which is basically the unlinked design. But the most commonly used ones are the linked semi-constrained replacement, of which the Conrad-Murray is the most common. You also have other systems. The convertible systems have come in newly, where you can go in planning an unlinked design, and if you find that it is very unstable, you can go ahead and do a linked system. I haven't done any hemi replacements. This is just an example from a Spanish paper where a grossly comminuted distal humeral fracture in an older woman was reconstructed with a hemi replacement. Apparently it gives good results over 5 to 7 years. Okay, a lot of people have spoken about approaches, of which my preference is the triceps splitting approach. Many people prefer a triceps on approach, which is basically a modification of the triceps reflecting approach. So I'll just come down to the examples. The first example is of a younger lady who had undergone an olecranon fixation with a radial head excision about 4 to 5 years ago, and following which she developed a bony ankylosis. So this is basically a stiff, completely stiff elbow in this position. It's obviously not very functional, and she can't use her right hand. And you can see the scarring as well. So I'm going to keep the clips very short. A posterior, obvious posterior exposure, get rid of the pseudoarthrosis or the ankylosis. A preparation, this is a biomet implant that was used at that time. The preparation of the humerus, the preparation of the ulna. We have the trial implants in situ right now. We do a trial reduction to see whether we are able to get good extension. We would obviously trim the olecranon to get good extension. In this situation, I am pre-linking the ulnar and the humeral prosthesis before I am inserting into the medullary canals. And then we put in the cement, and we insert both of them simultaneously, and you'll be able to extend it to achieve the compression that you require. Now, this is one way of doing it. The next example would be a situation where we will do it separately. So this is the postoperative X-ray, where you can see that we've released the proximal radioulnar joint as well. This patient had pretty good function. The postoperative protocol is to use a slab for about 2 weeks, and after which we start mobilizing. She had good function. Now this is the next patient who had this range of movement between 45 degrees to 90 degrees, obviously not functional again. And this was a post-traumatic situation where he was managed non-operatively by a local practitioner. Now this is the commonly used implant, which is the Conrad-Murray implant, where you go through the standard exposure, which is the triceps splitting approach. As you can see, that's the radial head that is being removed. As you can see, the whole distal humerus is stripped of all the attachments, which you have to reattach at the end of the situation. So this is the cementing part where you can see the implant now is unlinked. So once we put the implant, then we link it together with the spin and we'll be able to extend it well. And that's a removal of the excessive cement. So you get good movements with replacement. Now, this is the Conrad-Murray implant, and as you can see, the distal parts are cemented, the proximal part is uncemented or porous coated, so that will get incorporated with the bone. This is the post-operative X-ray where you can see we had fractured the lateral condyle, but it unites over a period of time. They do extremely well. The important thing to know is a graft is placed in front of the flange, which you can see in front of the humerus, and that in this particular X-ray you can see very well how that graft has taken up, and it's very, very important that this graft is placed, which is a major cause for failure of this particular implant. So this is the range of motion that the patient had 1 year following this surgery, and this particular patient had an ulnar nerve palsy which recovered over a period of 3 to 4 weeks. So he has good function as well. This is the right hand, very important that he has this. So the results, these results were published in 1997. It holds good until 2019, where I could read the last paper, where you have an 83% good results objectively at 6 years, which comes down to about 76 to 78% by 10 years. And the unlinked, comparing the unlinked with the linked design, you find that the linked design does perform extremely well. It has to be a floppy hinge. Complications: infection, ulnar nerve palsy, mechanical failure, which is breakage of the implant, loosening triceps disruption, fracture. So the take-home message: do a total elbow replacement and acute trauma in older patients greater than 65 years only. Results in arthrosis and stiff elbows is very promising in the midterm. By that I mean 10 to 12 years. Extensive counseling is needed before surgery. Very, very important for the patient to understand what to expect from this procedure. And the patient has to be limited to weight lifting of only 2 to 5 kgs post-procedure. Thank you very much.